Good afternoon and welcome to today's show. We are going to be looking at calm mind, cash flow, and where wealth really meets wellness. Now, a question to everybody tuning in is, what if building your wealth didn't really require you to burn out? And
I find that
also,
extremely difficult.
I knew that one for you, Jeff.
See, as soon as you got me at calm mind, and it's like, my mind's never calm.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like,
quite a difficult thing if you're busy. Yeah.
it's just always on. It's no busy. It's just I'm always on. I've become curious about almost everything.
Yeah, I think when we speak about having a calm mind, I think when you're involved in business and building investments, and you're not ideally not going to have a completely calm mind all the time. But I think having that balance so that you're not completely running at your highest level of energy all the time to where the point where you're burning out. I think it's finding that balance. For
There's
me, I
another
think
one,
that,
balance.
yeah.
It's like, what's that? What's balance?
I think that's
Everybody
people's
talks about
perspective.
it, but it's like, what is it?
And generally people feel like in order to be successful you need to be at this really high pace, and ultimately will result in burnout. And think about what if maybe, your clarity of your mind could actually improve your financial outcomes. Now that's a really important one, and I think you really need to have a clear mind in order to make good decisions. And especially if you're doing like things like risk analysis things, if you're just doing it kind of ad hoc and on a whim without really clearing your mind and thinking about it methodically, you could make really costly mistakes. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of people do it over the years, Jim, and possibly done it yourself.
Or possibly doing it the night before in a fag packet.
Yes, we spoke about that the other day, actually. Do you know, just
Yeah.
doing things at the last minute, yeah.
See that quite a bit. I see that quite a bit in people's diaries. The
Mhm,
day
yeah.
before, and it's like, really? The day before? What happens if a question comes up you've got to need answered for that? It's like, I'm a big fan of doing, as soon as you know you've got to do something, let's prepare straight away about what you've got to do and the framework involved in what you've got to do. That's, I think for me, that's the most important thing. And we are going to talk about this and how that makes a fundamental difference overall. But this is, it's the modern approaches to successful and often prioritising constant activities and pressure. And I know quite a few people that actually don't do that very well. I try to, hence the reason why I run deliberately, because if I don't run, I never ran this morning. Guess what I did? I went straight to my laptop and started work at about 8 o'clock because I knew I wasn't running the day. And I thought, I'm just going to start work. And I don't necessarily do that all the time, but I found myself doing it more and more recently. So the context, putting into context and framing is so important, and outlining exactly what you need to do. The financial strategies and the focusing purely on numbers, income, savings, and all the rest of it. Many of them do actually just numbers, and I do. I'm just numbers. That's all I think about, numbers and how it affects things.
So that's interesting, because a lot of like you say, financial strategies and things are geared around the income that's going to come in. Whether it's savings, whether it's investments, and it could be quite fast paced. And a lot of people overlook that. The emotional state behind those decision making processes in order to have successful investments and good savings and generating good income. The emotional side of things is overlooked quite a lot. And do you think that's when people then push themselves too far and find themselves burnt out and not able to continue?
If you're constantly at odds in your mind, and you're not getting the proper sleep, and you're not doing the proper exercise, and you're not eating the proper diet, I think you're gonna be heading for, you will head for burnout, because obviously that's why. And this is quite interesting. You will head for burnout, and the real reason that you'll head for burnout in that aspect is not because you're doing too much. It's because you're overloading your body and your mind with, for want of a better phrase, toxin.
Toxins.
Toxin in terms of what you're consuming, in terms of food and drink into your gut, toxin in terms of what you're consuming into your mind. I think somebody once said, it was Bob Proctor or something, like you said, comics are chewing gum for the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is just your overall physical presence. I mean, that could take a huge toll as well, but that's all connected to everything else that you're doing. So if you're quite big, then you're going to be struggling, and more of your energy is going to be concentrating on trying to keep all that together, like
Or even
and get your
movement in
sleep pattern
general.
sorted out as well. So these are all key factors which actually build into that. And yet it hadn't. And when you think about it, that's got nothing to do with working hard.
No,
That's
it's just
actually just trying to survive on the spot.
what I've noticed through personal experience, and I'm sure anybody else in my age group and obviously over and things, your 20s are so much different from your 30s. Obviously, I'll be 40 this year, and it's with age you realise, your sleep, what you actually eat, and how it has a profound effect on your ability to actually perform. If
Well,
you're not going to
there were
sleep, you're eating a lot of rubbish. You can't do it the same.
people were reminiscing about Jackios, the
Yeah,
discotheque in Kirkcaldy,
nightclub. Yeah,
and also Bentley's at the a couple of days ago in a post.
yeah.
What's your most favourite things? And we can't do what we used to do and all the rest of it because it's no longer there. And it's like, I'll be honest, you wouldn't be able to do that at that age anyway. Now,
Mm-hmm.
because when you were younger and everybody's, medical science has actually proven this, everybody below 30, your liver and your kidneys and everything are so resilient and they're actually turning everything around for you in your body. But as soon as you go after 30, the science behind it suggests that your liver and your kidneys and everything it functions is actually, it becomes more difficult for them to process all effectively what is toxins when you go out and you start drinking alcohol. When you go out and you start eating, McDonald's. If you start
Takeaways.
eating that, all that stuff, your body's fighting all the time to try and process all this stuff because it's ultra high processed food. And I don't think everybody's completely aware about, and I'll give you an analogy about how this works. Your body's only got a finite amount of resources in order to be able to work properly. And it runs like that. That's how it runs. So what you need to do when you're looking at your body and what it needs and what it doesn't need, more importantly, what it doesn't need, is you've got to make sure that happens. Because if it's only got a finite of resources to actually heal and protect you against everything, like what your kidneys and your pancreas and insulin and everything does for your body when you're consuming and when you're doing things, physical activities, then you've got to think to yourself, if you've only got a finite resources for doing that, then if you're deliberately, because that is deliberately by your diet, by your physical activity, and by your stress overload, if you're deliberately doing that to your body, it's not got time to try and heal itself.
Yeah, you
So no time at all.
basically overloading the system.
Yeah,
Basically
you're
overloading
overloading
the
it.
system,
And
you're not
everybody
going to
thinks it's like, why am I no healing? And I think, I could look at you straight away and say, no, damn fine why you're no healing very quick, or why you've got certain illnesses. Everybody
Yeah,
knows it. Everybody's afraid to say it. You can't say that. You'll offend them. And it's like, well, do they want to know the truth or do they know? Well, that's all it really comes down to. Did they want to know the truth or do they not? I think that's the most important thing. So that then comes down to core philosophy. Well, we'll just quickly cover the burnout frequency and how it leads to the high stress and the clarity and the lack of clarity. And then that then contributes, when I talked about that, then contributes to poor financial decisions, inconsistent progress, and reduced long-term sustainability. Now, true wealth actually requires both financial growth, but also mental stability. But that's linked
yeah,
into what you consume, how physical exercise affects you, and also how you deal with any things that you come across, which will affect your brain.
yeah.
That's it.
And the mental stability gives you that ability, like you say, to deal with problems that come your way and overcome them and think about them methodically, rather than being completely, if something comes up to you and it's a problem solving event, rather than completely losing it, you take it head on and think about it in a structured way. If you've not got the mental stability, you can't do that.
Yeah, I would say so.
And you said about core philosophy. I mean, today's topic is based on a simple principle, and that principle would be, a calm, focused mind supports better financial outcomes ultimately.
Hence the reason why I have a plant-based diet. I don't drink alcohol. I don't consume caffeine. I don't smoke or anything like that. And I make sure I sleep as often as I can, the right amount of hours, like 7. Yeah. It's always 7 hours 40 minutes for me, according to Garmin. So I'll work out what time I'm going to be getting up, which is typically about 6 or 7. I just wake up anyway. So I know I have to go to my bed actually probably 10:30, between 10:30 and 11:30 to actually get that sort of sleep pattern. So, yeah. So basically, I'm not an all-nighter. I'll just come home when everybody goes out and it starts to liven up about 10 or 10:30. It's like, that's me ready to go home and get a cup of tea and go to my bed. A cup of peppermint tea, by the way.
Yeah.
Again, that's another thing. It's and these are the core philosophies that I work behind, because that'll help have clarity in mind, clarity and physical presence, and also clarity in your body and how it works, and giving it a chance to actually be able to heal. No surprise, when if anything gets damaged on me, I heal pretty quickly.
Yeah, and just obviously talking about the mental clarity and things, and when you've got that, a really important thing is decision making, and your decision making becomes a lot more intentional when you've got that clarity, rather than, you can make decisions and things quite on a whim, but are they the right decisions? You really have to have clear, focused intent on the decisions that you're making, because they'll have a knock-on effect on your success and the success of your investments and your business or whatever you're running.
Sometimes the decisions that you make are often, they're often the right decisions. The key is to make the decision. But then you've got to think about, are you getting rushed into that decision? See, if anybody tries to rush me into a decision, the answer is always no.
Yeah, I know that.
And it's because I don't have the facts actually to make a proper decision. Yeah. And then I'll ask for the facts, or I'll get the facts, and then I'll be able to come back to it. And that's probably the most important thing for me. And with that, then I'll be able to evaluate risk more effectively overall. And risk is a big thing for me. This is down to an investment strategy now. Everybody used to use the investment strategy, the 4% rule, which was when you retire, you'll draw out 4% of your income over the next whatever years, but they expected it to be the 4% of your income from your retirement fund every year to live on from your fund itself. And generally that would last 20 years, but it will last 30 years because you've got the compounded on all the income that you've still got sitting in there at compound. So it's usually about 30 years that lasts. But that is quite outdated now. That's not fit for purpose, that system anymore, and the way you retire, because it takes into account things. It doesn't take into account things like we're actually going to be living longer. Yeah, it doesn't take into account the things like is the stock market still going to continue to rise at 10% every single year at your investment? Because normally when you come out and you're retiring, you put yourself into low income investments. Or low return investments, bonds and stuff like that, in order to protect your money, which is low risk, because you're retiring. You can't take any volatile risks because you're relying on this money to last you for a long time. And that's possibly not the way anymore, because you get things like an indexed linked and guaranteed bonds, which will actually inflation linked and guaranteed bonds. In other words, there's no downside to them. No downside at all. You can't lose if you invest in them, but you win on the upside every single time when you get it. All they say is they get a percentage of your upside. That's it. So when you win, they get a percentage of your upside. When they lose, you don't lose at all. Now that seems a great investment.
That seems like a no-brainer, yeah.
Yeah, it is, because they have to win in order for to get anything. And you're guaranteed winning all the time. So this is where retirement funds are actually going, and this is why risks should be evaluated more effectively and overall, and you should watch out for that. Opportunities will be easier to recognise as well if you're quite calm and focused and your outcomes and what you want to achieve. Opportunities definitely become more easy to recognise, but then that's also down to preparation, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, opportunities, there's a good example of that. I mean, when you decided to expand on your portfolio, it was a time where everybody else was totally panicking and thinking that the market was in crisis, and you started buying. And it was
Yeah.
one of the best decisions you've made for a while, because
As Baron Rothschild says, when there's blood on the streets, that's when you start buying.
Yeah. But that was because you seen the opportunity, you looked at it like in a methodical approach, you looked at the risk, you looked at the benefits, and say, this is a really good opportunity, this is the time. Where everybody else was running about thinking, everything was just going to go south.
I kind of knew where the opportunity was, because I did see property prices rising. I knew property prices were really, really low in terms of where they were right now. I knew that. And everybody predicted, because of COVID, that it was going to crash and the market was going to fall apart. And I'm like, I can't see that. I mean, because people will still have to move, irrespective if they're stuck in a house. So that's when I came up, and this is clarity of mind, that's when I came up with, I wonder if I could be able to, if we never ever left our houses ever again, but we got everything delivered to our doors and we weren't allowed to go outside except for our garden, then how could you sell a house to someone who's never able to walk in the door and have a look at it? That's where the personal property tours came from. That's where the online marketing, digital marketing came from. That's where it was all devised. And I devised a whole system where if you never ever left your house again and you weren't able to view another house, actually physically, before you actually bought it and moved in, then this is the system I would devise. And that's what was done at that time.
Yeah.
And that's how that came out. And that was really just the opportunities that we recognised at the time, instead of everybody else going, oh my God, the world's falling in. It took me 2 days to realise that.
Yeah.
It's like after thinking, oh, the world's falling in, and joining in with everybody, and then think to myself, okay, how do we pivot on this? How do we take an opportunity and an advantage of this? And that's where that came from. So it's having that framework. It shows the focus of these 3 pillars that you talk about. I mean, you're going to talk about them now, the 3 pillars, but it's that framework behind it. It does that.
Yeah, definitely. I think at times of crisis, you will notice the people that have that mental clarity and the the ability to seek opportunity. And these 3 pillars that we're obviously focused on today is mindset, which is like that shaping decision-making behavior. And then the money strategy, of course, to create like structured and practical systems in order to make your investments successful. And as you said as well, the importance of your wellness, and that's maintaining that energy required to be consistent with these things. So we're going to look now at like the link between mindset and money. And financial outcomes are always strongly influenced by your emotional and your mental state. I'm sure you could stand testament to that, Jim, over the years, decisions that you've made and how your emotional and mental state influenced those decisions throughout your investment journey.
Well, let's look at Queen Margaret Drive. The person's been evicted after 2 years and about £10,000 in arrears. The property is completely destroyed inside, and I'm going to have to spend the best part of 25 to 30,000 to do that. Am I really bothered? Yeah, a wee bit. But hey ho, it's all part of doing business. But why did that come about then? Why am I okay with this? I mean, in the early days, I'd be like freaking out, going, oh my God, where am I going to get this money from? How am I going to be able to cope with this? Can I cut this to the bone as much as possible and do just minimal to get this property back on the market? But now, because of the scale that I've built and the risk that I've avoided now, because of the scale I've built, and one property goes down, another 100 and odd are running, or whatever it is. And that's the most important thing. And paying for that, you don't rely on the income, Jim. So that just all goes back in. So that's, and you can if you want, but that's another way of doing it. So that's why you link, the link about emotional mental states is so important when you're dealing with money.
The setup, just quickly, the setup of your portfolio is quite good as well, because like you say, you don't take out of it, you don't rely on income from it, and it has the ability to look after itself as long as it's overseen and managed properly. Like
I
you
often
say,
think to myself, Richard, it's like, why the hell am I doing it then? Because it's like, if you're not taking any money out of it, what are you getting from it? I don't know. It just feels like it's a game to me, and
well,
I'm
you
not
do
just
like Monopoly, so
yeah, and that's probably where it's driven from. But it just feels like it's a sort of game, and I've become I've accepted the fact that you're going to have some bit of risk, and you're going to have some bit of times where you're going to have a financial impact. But it's not a huge financial impact because the rest of them are running along and being able to pay for that. It's unfortunate the situation. That's once in a blue moon. But when you have things like stress, you can then do, sometimes you've got impulsive decisions. I mean, I've done that in
yeah,
the past. Impulsive decisions. Fear can result in missed opportunities because you're too busy being insular in terms of what you're doing. You can't see actually what's happening round about you. A classic example of that is when you're sitting engrossed in something and maybe something else is happening round about you, and you have no idea. And it's only when you look back around you think, what's going on there?
yeah,
And it's like, what? I never even saw that. I never even heard that. And it's because you're so focused. But then that's also an example of being completely focused on what you should be trying to achieve
yeah,
and not letting anybody else interfere with what you're doing. That's another example of that. The one about the lack of sleep, I mean, that can reduce your consistency and discipline overall because it's just lack of sleep. It's you get up and you're kind of on and off all the time. You're ready to go one day, and the next day you're like completely exhausted, mentally as well, and therefore that run that you're meant to do or that training that you're meant to do isn't going to happen because of that. Because
yeah.
you've just not got the mental capacity, but more importantly, you've not even got the physical capacity now because you've let it run down to the ground almost. So in contrast, a calm and focused mindset overall improves, I think, long-term financial behavior overall.
Mhm. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And the fatigue thing and lack of sleep, something I think that a lot of people that experience it probably don't realize that's what it is. And personal experience, you go through these days where one day you're wired and fired and ready to go and on the ball and thinking clear, and the next day you're just, it's complete, and it's because you've not had enough sleep.
Well,
And
you don't know because of that.
yeah,
And it's like, it needs somebody else to tell you, then you just ignore them because you don't believe them.
mhm.
That's another way a way of looking at it. So you're almost in a spiral unless and this is why people will eventually go, I'm going to have to go and see the doctor. It's like because they'll not listen to anybody else round about them about what's happening. They just don't believe them at all, and they have to go and see a doctor. And then the doctor tells them that's the problem.
Yeah, and they'll
And they
take
go,
that advice from them. Yeah.
everybody else is right then. And these
Yeah,
are different things, but there is practical strategies to help that, I suppose, and help you get back on track.
yeah, and the practical strategies. The first one that I know you actively take part in every day, Jim, and it's like that daily mindset and mental reset, and that's allocating time every day. To have some kind of quiet and uninterrupted thinking and reflection time. Now you do that every day. I know you do.
I think also as well, well, you can do that. What's the phrase? Change as good as a whatever. I can't remember it is. Just a change. There's a phrase that incorporates that, but the change is sometimes just as good. So if I'm sitting intense at the computer all the time, it's like your eyes go like blooming screens, and your head starts to buzz because you're still got the same. It causes stress because you've still got the same view, and you're completely focused, and you're in foveal vision, I think it is. Or
As it changes, as good as the rest.
yeah, change is as good as the rest. That's it. And that's probably just as good. So you can go out and do physical activity, but it's something different. It's just changing your mind. It's using a different part of your mind, I suppose. That's why people paint.
Yeah, because
You
it
think about
triggers
it, that's why they
different.
paint and
Yeah.
draw and they become creative or they do photography because it takes them away from that. It switches them off from there. That's why I dive because it's like as soon as you go into that water, the world switches off.
Completely different world. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a different world you go into.
But it could be
Completely.
something
So
as simple as going for a walk. Going for a
yeah,
walk's
and
my
so you're giving certain parts of your brain a rest, would otherwise be overpowered by it, and you're using other parts of your brain which hadn't been used in a long time, possibly. It's your brain's just like a muscle. It's like all the muscles in your legs. If you move different ways, you'll trigger off different muscles, and your brain's still just the same. If you think differently, or you do something different, or you're quite reflective, or you do painting, or whatever you do, you can actually switch it on and switch it off. Reading and stuff, and watching the television, watching a podcast, listening to a podcast. Again, different thing.
Mm-hmm.
All these different things make a fundamental difference. Hearing the noise on the seaside, the birds in the trees, just the wind blowing in your face, and that sensory feel it gives you overall. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you think, God, it's great to be alive. Just that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then immediately when you say, oh, it's great to be alive, and you have that feeling, guess what triggers off? It triggers off all your endorphins.
Yeah.
Yeah, it triggers it all off. Dopamine, it immediately releases. And what's dopamine meant to do? It's a reward system.
Elevates your mood, yeah.
Yeah, so you can trigger it and do all that. So you'll reduce information overload as well as key in doing this. And the mental reset that you said, limiting that exposure to conflict or unrealistic financial advice, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So you do everything all the time, but don't overload yourself ever, and core focus on one thing at a time.
Yeah, and create that structured decision-making process in your mind. And doing things like writing things down, thinking about your decision-making before you actually act on it could really reduce your emotional biases and your emotional
this is all different journals for different things that I'm doing and working on. I have a different one. I've got another one there, actually. I've got another one over there. So I've got about 5 or 6 journals I do for every different thing. And sometimes I don't even go back to them, but I just write them down so I have a bit of clarity. Or I'll write them in my phone, a to-do for the next day, so it prompts me what I need to do. And it'll just be a to-do list, and actually gets out of my head and reduces that emotional bias overall, I would say.
So we've spoke a lot about the emotional side of things and the way to manage your wellness in order to make good decisions and be successful. But what about the actual cash flow itself? I mean, building that sustainable cash flow ultimately is one of the most important elements of being successful in investment and business.
Cash flow is king. Now, never ever hear yourself saying cash is king, because it's not just cash. Cash is trash. Cash flow. Cash flow implies you're getting it all the time. It's coming in all the time. It's flowing in all the time. That's what proper investing does, not just produces cash now and again. Because cash is basically, okay, I'll sell the house and chop down the tree that bears the fruit.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say cash is what you get when you do one-offs. Cash flow is what you get when you're repeatedly getting it. And so cash flow is what you're really after overall. And cash flow is really divided into 3 categories. It's the active income. Now, what can I talk about active income? Trading time for money, employment, things that you're doing, services, and all the rest of it. Work a job. For me, it's a great. I endorse this every single time. Do not, for God's sake, give up a decent job if you're wanting to build financial wealth. Because I'll tell you, unless you've got a fantastic idea, it's going to break the internet or make an absolute fortune, all you're doing is resetting your best self back to zero. Whereas when you're in a job, at least you know this is what I'm going to have coming in every single month. So I'm not actually having to worry about where I'm going to get my next buck, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you know, work your job. That pays for your living, your day-to-day living. Definitely. Income generated through time, trading for effort. Okay, time equals money. That's what that is. Now, the next one, scalable income. Income that can grow without a proportional increase in effort. Now, that's things like digital subscriptions, things like that. You're attracting people in, and you're signing them up, and they're attending a club, and the number of people in membership actually continues to grow out of that. That's what scalable income is. scalable income examples, Netflix.
Yeah.
Amazon Prime, I suppose, because they're all
Disney
members
Plus.
as well.
That's a big one.
Mobile phone subscriptions, all the companies that run them. Subscriptions to AI now. You get ChatGPT, you get Claude AI or whatever it is. You've got all these different subscription-based things. So that's scalable income. That's a revenue-generating business. It could bring in through membership every single month. That's why when Netflix releases their accounts every year, or they give quarterly reports and they say, this is the number of people we've now got watching Netflix or subscribed. They don't talk about people watching Netflix. They just talk about subscribers. Because if you're watching it, it doesn't mean to say you're paying for it.
No, not always.
Yeah. So what it is they talk about subscribers because subscribers pay for it.
They're the ones paying the money. Yeah.
So that's why their share price goes up and down based on the number of subscribers they've got and the confidence in investors have in their ability to produce long-term income overall. That's scalable. Plus the fact, if you've got a subscription based like a mobile phone, you decide to put, or memberships, and decide to put up £1, then you're excuse the phrase, quid's in.
Yeah, if you multiply that across the,
because if you've got 1 million subscribers, you put it up £1, then you've got £1 million right on your bottom line. You've not done any more for it. You just put it up by £1. So that's what I think is so important is scalable income. Probably the next one is the most important one for me is passive. Now I don't have, just to go back, I've got active income. Yeah, I work day to day sometimes. Have I got scalable income? No. For me, building a membership community and all the rest of it, would outweigh. No, my passive income would outweigh that. So the passive income I generate is more important than actually building a scalable community thing. Because and this is where I talk about gurus and all the rest of it. Gurus are fake gurus, by the way, of property and how they make their money. They make their money on the scalable income avenue, whereas I'm like, I don't understand if you're making all that money out of property and what you're doing, why you're having to train people and teach people by running courses and charging for it. I don't understand how that makes you more money than what you would be making if you were scaling your business in terms of your passive income and your assets and wealth that you're generating. It doesn't seem plausible. So I could only assume it. They're the furus. They need that as a job. That is their job. They can't stop doing that.
Because it's part of their income.
Yeah, if they can't stop doing that, then how could they teach anybody to be financially free?
Yeah, it kind of contradicts. It does actually when you think about it like that.
Because they can't stop teaching courses because they make their money out of that. So if they're making their money out of that, you can't say, I'll teach you how to be financially free, because you are not financially free.
That's a good point.
So this is why it comes down to true passive income. And I talk about this a lot. I mean, I jokingly say this a lot. I could, rather than do that, I would rather just lie on the beach and drink pina coladas for the rest of my life. Because it's like, I have the option to do that if I really wanted to.
Because you've set up.
Yeah, I've built it to enough. I've built it to, listen to the word, enough. Enough. I don't need any more. It's like, I'll have some more gratefully, and I'll give it to people that need it. But at what point is it enough? And for me, what I've got is probably enough. I don't need to prove anything to anybody. I'm comfortable in my own skin. So passive income is income generated from investments or systems that require minimal ongoing input. I mean, yourself, it's like once in a blue moon, I'll interject with something, basically I'll buy property, just hand it to you and say, like, just go and get that on the market and get it rented. Do what it's needing done.
So then just like think about something being truly passive. Like, let's talk about property investment. Some people might think they've got a lot like passive income, but then say they've got a lot of debts in the background and the mortgage stuck very high and things. Then is it truly passive, because it could all fall apart at any minute?
Depends how you're geared, and depends what the risk is and the probability analysis of if any factors changing that equation. For example, if your occupancy rate drops, in other words, your property is empty for 2 or 3 months, can you survive? If your tenant stops paying their money, stops paying their rent, you've still got to continue there while you're trying to evict them, which could take 9 to 12 months. Can you survive without rent for a whole year with your property?
And if the answer is no,
yeah, you shouldn't be risking it then, or you should weigh up the risks and have something set aside just in case, or you have something in the background that you can easily liquidate in order to do that. Like you've maybe got an investment running and it's making money, and if it comes to worst, then you could at least cash that in and actually use that for what you've got there now. That's the sort of things I'm talking about. What happens if the rent goes down? What happens if you can only get a person so it can only afford a certain amount of rent level? What happens if the person loses their job and you're at £1,200 a month for your rent, but the person loses their job and the state would only give them £750 for their rent? Can you afford to do anything about that? Because remember, you can't just evict them. Can't get them out until the 3 months in arrears, and then you've got to serve the eviction papers. Yeah, and then it's 9 months from there to actually get ahead, and then you've got to try and get them out. Because it does take another month or so.
A long process,
yeah, so it does take a long process. So you've got to think about that as well. So is it really truly passive income? I don't think so. That's why you do get a lot of people now saying property isn't passive income. Well, I'm here to say it is if you do it right.
If it's done right, you've got to say that, yeah. It's done right. Do you think you said there as well? Obviously, you've got an active income, you don't have a scalable income, and you probably wouldn't because of the time and effort that it would need. And you've obviously got passive income with your portfolio. Would you say there's a common mistake that people make? They try and do all of this at once and try and do too much rather than.
Yeah.
Do you always want to say, if you've got something that works, stay in your lane and get that and just.
Let's double it sourcing. Let's double it HMOs. Let's double it, student lets. Let's double it holiday lets.
And do all these things simultaneously.
Jack of all trades, master of none. Mm-hmm. And we all know it's the people that make the most money, the elite in their category, that make the most money. The top 1% are elite in that category. It's athletes, business people, everybody that's elite in their category, in their field, are the ones that make the most money. So you want to be elite in that field that you're in, not just try and do everything all at once, because this is what people try to replicate. This is why they leave their job. I hate my job. But I tell you what, I'll leave my long-term job and I'll just start from scratch. I'll start from scratch because I think that's better. And I'm not getting paid for my holidays anymore. I'm not getting paid my pension contribution anymore. I've not got some sort of job security. That I've not got a job. I can't be guaranteed some work every single day when I'm self-employed, but I can when I go into work. And they just get completely delusional. Somebody sold them this
dream,
this wonder drug or whatever it is. It's going to solve all your problems. Just buy into it. Snake oil salesman. You've got to do some due diligence, find the right person. It's a common mistake is attempting to pursue all income streams simultaneously. It's mental.
It does happen a lot, but I think the more effective approach to that would be, stabilize, simplify, and then scale up. And what I mean by that is, focusing in on one primary income stream initially, anyway, and then building consistently on that before you try to expand. And then while doing that, use systems and automation as much as you can where possible to make it more streamlined. Yeah.
This is why we spoke of Cameron about. I says start playing about with ChatGPT because it can give you a huge amount of answers and collate all the information for you. You need to know about certain places or certain fields that you're looking into, all in one. And then you can fact check all these different things, and it's a lot quicker than having to look at and phone up. Go down to the local library. That's what you used to do before, isn't it? Yeah. For ChatGPT, you used to have to go down to the local library and then ask the librarian, "Do you know what book it was that?" And that book's maybe outdated, and you've got to look in that book, and you've got to look up the reference and where it is, and you've got to find it all out. Look at that, how long that would take.
Yeah.
And yet you can just ChatGPT, it goes and collates all that information for you, puts it right in front of you, how you would want it explained. It even gives you an idea about what you want to do next. And, that's a huge revelation in terms of searching for data that could back up or not back up what you want to try and analyze for risk. Definitely, I think that's so important.
Yeah, it certainly is the next level of, finding out information and gathering knowledge and things and facts.
Yeah, that's all it'll be, by the way.
But ChatGPT, it does also rely heavily on what you put in. Again,
Yeah.
you put
so if everybody's wrong, ChatGPT is going to be wrong as well. Because it just takes all the information from what we've already put into the systems. But on a bigger, grander scale, it's good for analysing other things, like, you know, how many people are actually looking at contacting us, how many people are liking, what's the best viral videos that get traction, stuff like that. And then it'll go and look for all the best viral videos and tell you why it was viral, and do you want to apply that to what you want to do, and everything like that. Now, I know that's what you can do, but I can't be bothered doing all that. I mean, this is just a labour of love. I like to talk about this. So then that gets you into the realms of using your wellness as a financial asset, I would say.
Right. Okay. So your wellness and your actual well-being, and to influence your ability to perform. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, your financial performance overall. Low energy levels can lead to delayed reactions and delayed actions, poor decision making, reduced productivity overall. Definitely. This is the thing. This is the story I always tell about. Take time out to sharpen your axe. You've got to take time. It's the two woodcutters that went against each other in a competition to cut down those most trees as possible in the competition. And one came in every single day and said, you know, I've done 10 today. The other one's going, yeah, I've done 11. Another one, I'm going to do more than you tomorrow. I'm going to get up earlier. I'm going to go to bed later, and I'm going to put more hours into this than you. And this guy was doing 11 every single day. And the other guy came back the next day after putting even more hours in and goes, how many have you done? And he went, I've done 11. And this boy goes, I've done 9. Sorry, you've put more hours into it and you've done 9 less than yesterday. What's going on? And it kept going on like that, where he was trying as much as possible and still getting less a result than what the other person was getting consistently all the time. And then when he says, what's going on? How come I'm getting less every single time? He said to somebody else who's a lot more knowledgeable than him, and he said, you know, Jack, at any point, did you take time out to sharpen your axe before you cut the tree?
It's got a more efficient tool, yeah.
Yeah. It's like all the other boy had done to do consistently 11 every single day and the same amount of hours every single day was he just sharpened his axe every single day, took that half an hour out beforehand, sharpened the axe, and then went to work, and he was able to do the same amount. Whereas the other guy kept working and it kept blunting his axe worse and worse every single day, and it was becoming more difficult every single time. This is why not taking time out, again, I'll say, it delays action, it gives you poor decision making, and it will reduce your productivity overall. When you take time out to sharpen your axe, though, and you do these things that we just spoke about previously, this is what happens. You get higher energy levels. Now, that supports things like clear thinking, consistent execution every single time. You know exactly what you do every single time and how you need to do it, and it becomes straightforward for you. There was no surprise when I said that, like, that's me got past 1,000 live streams, 1,000 days. That's over 3 years live streaming every single day. 3 years consistently, weekends, holidays, even when I was ill, still live streaming every single day. Why was that possible? Higher energy levels, clear thinking, gave you consistent execution at it. And then also what higher energy levels give you is an improved problem solving. You begin to see the world in a different way. You begin to see things clearer overall. It's like the box. I got told about if you've ever got a problem, it's like, take this metaphorical box, put the problem in the box, and close it up. In other words, put it in your diary, what the box is, for a couple of days' time to look at it again. Because maybe at the time you think, I've not got an answer to this, I'm not able to solve this. And so just leave it, let it go. 2-3 days later, open the box again, or look at your diary, say, okay, I could look at this again. All of a sudden, you've got more answers than you thought. Or more avenues to create answers than you thought. Because it's like your mind's going to work. Well, you've not even really thought about it. Your mind's just going to work, and it's an unconscious mind. And that's how it improves your problem solving overall.
Yeah, I feel when you're younger, I think you always try to rush in and tackle things head on, and rather than, and I think once you mature a bit, you realise, right, I've not got the answer for that right now. I'm going to put it aside, come back to it tomorrow, or come back to it. And when you come back to it, like, right, okay, this is how I'm going to deal with this, or this is how I'm going to respond, and it just makes a lot more sense and it's a lot more clearer because you've just given it that bit of time.
It's interesting that you talk about almost like it's age it gives you that advantage.
But for my own experience, because I look at my younger self and how I used to do things compared to now.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I really can't disagree with that statement. But I will put a wee
pin in it.
Yeah, a proviso on it. I just put a sort of a warning. Don't always think it's age. It improves that sort of thing. Because some people have still never changed their ways and they're still exactly like when they were younger. I think it's a lot to do with experience. Experiences that you've had, experiences in failure, experiences where it's not worked before. Notice how I talk about failure and it's not worked.
You've now got that
people that have all these experiences earlier on tend to learn a lot quicker than the people that actually learn, they get it right every single time. Because the people that get it right every single time are just learning the same thing every single time, and they're not accelerating as fast because they're not getting things wrong, which will teach them quicker than actually getting it right every single time. Work that one out.
And can still be later in their life and making the same mistakes that.
And they don't know what they don't know, and they could be. You're right. They could be making the same mistakes. I would say when you come down to this, and we'll wrap this up in this section, the core wellness practices that you should be looking at, the things that you should do. Again, it comes down to what we talked about: sleep optimization. Your 8 hours a day is probably in between 7 and 8 hours. I think in general that's what people will need to get. I think it's so important to go through the sleep stages though, and get your REM sleep and get your deep sleep. Your deep sleep is one of the most essential things. You'll not deep sleep all the time, by the way, but at least you get a bit of deep sleep, and you'll know you've got deep sleep because when you wake up, you'll feel rejuvenated. You'll not feel you've been sleeping lightly overall. I think as well, it's physical activity, regular movement, improved focus and mental clarity overall. That's why I run. That's why I do triathlon, I swim, bike, all the rest of it. That's the whole point. And it keeps you fit, both physically and mentally. But you must have the ability, when we come to mental, to say no. Just to say no on occasion and just go, no, that's it, we're done. I'm not doing it. I can't do it, because if I do that, it'll get me into it'll open a wee can of worms, and I'm going to have to commit to it, and then I'm going to have to do something else. I'm going to have to do something else. Further down the line, I'll just overload myself because I know what else is coming. It's been disciplined enough to say no, and I mean disciplined. Some people know comes naturally because that's the type of person they are, but a lot of people actually find it really difficult to say no to other people.
Yeah, it's difficult.
And you need to do that. It's so important. So the calm mind leads to then, your cash flow framework as well overall. A structured approach can be, summarising these 4 steps. You can talk about them now.
When you talk about the structured approach, and the first one that I did here was the mental clarity, and it falls right in line with you saying, saying no. And saying no is all a big part of taking yourself out of a situation, of reducing your distractions so you could actually improve your focus on what you need to be focusing on. I'm sure a lot of people that work in business and build investments and things will feel themselves get sidetracked by other things, and it pulls them away for the actual important
thing. This is the thing.
And saying no.
You're in the middle of the thing, and what they do is they leave their phone right next to them so somebody could just interrupt. I'm amazed at the amount of times that someone's got a phone, and I'm sitting in a meeting with them, and they don't do it anymore, by the way, because I don't tolerate it. But in the past, where I've sat in a meeting and then the phone's rang, and they've actually answered the phone.
Oh God.
And just give me 2 minutes. I'll phone it. I'll answer this phone. It's like, what, really? It's like, wait a minute. That's like somebody coming up to you when you're talking to somebody at a party and then just interrupting and blocking you out of the conversation and speaking to the
Yeah.
other person you're speaking to. That's the equivalent to that. So that's what we talk about, distractions. You allow
Yeah.
it to happen. You're in the middle of doing a spreadsheet analysis or a budget or you're planning or you're whatever you're doing, or you're even relaxing. And you allow your watch to go bzz, bzz, and you go, oh, that's a message. You're done for.
Yeah.
I don't have, my watch doesn't do that. My watch, I have not switched that on for that very reason. I do not want texts and calls coming to my watch. I've got a blooming phone there. And if I leave my phone in another room, it's for a reason. I want to be reminded through my watch. And I'm sure if it was urgent enough, someone else would tell me.
Mm-hmm.
Yet we'll all think that we've got to jump to it straight away. We've become addicted to phones.
Yeah, the modern culture, I was just going to say, regarding mobile telephones, is
we've let it consume and overtake our lives.
Completely.
Deborah Meaden said it, didn't she? The average person scrolls the height of the Eiffel Tower every single day on their phone.
That's the kind of eye-watering fact when you think about that.
Now, I'm not scrolling the height of the Eiffel Tower every day, so someone else is making up for me.
Yeah. So people will do more. Some people will do less, but some people will do a lot more.
And that's not good, because that's not healthy for your mind, because your mind sees everybody else, because everybody else posts on social media their successes. So you see all their so-called successes, even so-called successes, and their embellishments about how successful they are at things. And you automatically start into this comparison mode between you and the other person, thinking, why am I not like that? And then imagine if you're doing that with every single person that you see. But you're not actually saying to yourself, actually, I'll be honest, but that person can't walk. So obviously I can walk. But they've got a fantastic mind and they could do something else. But nobody focuses on that bit. They focus on, how am I not as brainy as that? And it's like, what? Looking at other things as well. It's like you're a bit more beneficial. You've got to be grateful for what you've got. Have some sort of gratitude for what you've got. It's the old thing about, my friend used to say, I says, how do you know you're happy then? He says, well, I've get up in the morning and I've got a pulse. It's going to be a great day.
Yeah.
That's it.
A lot of people might have issues and things and sometimes wallow a bit in self-pity, but what you always need to remember is there's always somebody worse off than you, and you need to be grateful for where you are and make the most of it.
So have the structured approach to it, the mental clarity, reduce distractions, improve focus, probably financial awareness, track your income, track your expenses and your financial patterns, what you're doing. Is it a habit for you, as soon as you see money in your account, to go and think about spending it? Have you got a habit of scrolling through your phone and looking at all the junk you can buy? The new bid up TV, QVC, that's effectively what TikTok is, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't buy it.
TikTok Shop is become the new QVC or bid up TV. That's all it's become. It just wants to sell you something. They're not interested in anything else. It is so toxic to your mind.
Yeah.
So track your income, your expenses, and your financial patterns. And I think consistency applies small, repeatable actions over time. In other words, I'm maybe just going to go out for a walk for a half an hour. And then after a period of time, I'll maybe just run to that lamppost, see how I get on, or jog to that lamppost. Or maybe jog to the next lamppost. I'll maybe walk for the rest, and then maybe jog to the next lamppost after that. And then the next minute, like about a year down the line, you're out running a 5K at park run.
Yeah, because consistently doing something, maybe if it's very small in the beginning, if you get that right, then you're able to build on that. And that's where you get your success.
So small, repeatable actions, you can do that in your business as well. Small, repeatable actions, get things right all the time, and start to develop that. I mean, I because I went into America for a month, and then I went up Kilimanjaro, and then I came back and I went diving in Egypt. It's like my strength and conditioning training fell by the wayside. So I then went down to a lower weight to train again. But it wasn't because it was more because I needed to create the habit again of doing it. So it was nothing to do about with doing any strength and conditioning at that point in time. It was just creating the habit all over again and keeping consistently doing it. That's the most important thing. And that then helps you build the systems and the processes that and overall to benefit you. And that could generate income efficiency as well.
Yeah.
If you're doing it on an income stream wise, or if you're doing it physical aptitude, or if you're doing it on a mental aptitude as well, 10 minutes a day. Small repeatable actions over time. Just 10 minutes a day, sit outside, embrace the weather, even if it's raining, get an umbrella, stand outside, embrace the weather, and just do it for 10 minutes a day. That's all you need to do. And then you'll get into a habit of doing that. It's when you come back to your wealth, though. Your wealth is your sustainable wealth is really not based on short-term intensity, but it's on long-term stability and structure. Long-term stability and structure. That's where your sustainable wealth comes from overall. I never envisaged being where I am today in terms of my financial wealth. I kind of thought if I'd get a millionaire before I retire, that'll be fine with me. And that's 65. Now I'm only 59. And I did that when I was 38.
38, yeah.
So all I've done is I've just repeated the same actions all the time to get further on where I am and duplicate what I've got already. It's duplicate the system and then tweaking it for the current market we're in, or tweaking it for, or looking at risk and stuff like that and applying all these different things and just building on top of that. I mean, look at Sony when they first started out. Sony, the company, the big corporation, make televisions and everything else. And they make everything else. They make some things like wind turbines and stuff, I think. But Sony, when they first started out about 100 years ago, I think it was 100 years ago, they made rice cookers.
Yeah, you've sold me that before. I was quite surprised.
And then you think to yourself, how on earth did they get to where they are today then? And it wasn't, oh, let's do televisions, let's do everything. It was like, no, let's do that as well then. Let's do a bit more and let's do a bit more and let's add on that. Let's add on this. Let's buy this business and incorporate it into what we're doing. And we could do this. And just over time, it started to grow. And that's what happens when these grow. So it's small increments every single day. It's these baby steps overall. Get that. And also baby steps to improve your financial wealth. Financial wealth won't be improved just by, I think, financial wealth won't be improved just by doing one big, huge thing. It will be improved by just doing these small incremental improvements every single day for your financial wealth.
And having something that compounds and grows over the long term. Like you said short-term intensity, and that's where a lot of people try and make things work in the short term and go hell for leather and
got no vision.
Really, it's not really the way to do it. The long term, and you've
got no vision, and they can't see the bigger picture. They've not actually forecast or thought about where this would take them ultimately at the end. And compounding especially is the one people just don't realize. It takes so long in the beginning to build anything substantial up, but yet once you get to that tipping point, it starts to rocket up from there on a J curve. In terms of how you build wealth.
Start to build exponentially, yeah.
Warren Buffett never made any financial success until after he's 60. After he's 60-year-old and onwards. He wasn't anything before that. But after that, it was like million, 10 million, 100 million, billion. It's like it just kept going up, and it's because of all that traction previously. Yeah, it's doing all the work before.
Yeah,
I will do today what others will not to achieve tomorrow what others cannot. And by the time you're achieving it, anybody else is too late to follow that person because they started running years ago, years before that. So you can't catch up with them, but you can probably replicate their success if you take that time as well, learn from them, because you could probably replicate it quicker because they'll know the mistakes that they've made. If they would ever tell you. That's a good point. Yeah, learn by other people's mistake. Don't do it yourself. Just learn by their mistake. If everybody's making the same mistake, then for God's sake, don't do it again.
But a lot of people sometimes don't want to accept that and kind of want to tread the path, and that's the wrong decision because if somebody's already made the mistake, learn from it. But,
okay, so let's then just finish off here in the closing. And the key takeaway from what we've talked about is pretty clear.
Yeah.
Financial success and personal well-being are not separate. You always notice somebody that's really successful. Look at Jeff Bezos. Like, he looks pretty cool now. See, when you look at him when he first started, like, oh my God, it's nothing. You know what I mean? It's the difference in how they look and how they appear and everything like that. They look really run down in the beginning, but now the financial success is like all of a sudden they're now the personal well-being, and it's like they look fantastic, and it's like they look like they've just rolled off a production line. They're out of a catalogue.
Yeah.
They're interconnected. A balanced approach supports stronger decisions, I would say, better habits, and a more sustainable outcome overall. So continue building with clarity, consistency, and I would say intention overall.
Yeah, clear. Yeah, have clear intention about what you're doing and where you want to be. Is definitely, and I think to round up that was quite good, and we've spoke about today the calm mind and the cash flow and how that intertwines where wealth meets wellness. And as you say, Jim, it's staying focused and staying balanced and build sustainably ultimately, when you should be successful over the long term. So great. Now let's leave that today. We will be back next week as usual for the Wealth Creation Show. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and thanks for all your insights, Jim, as usual. And we'll see you next time.
Bye for now.
Bye.